Welcome back to New Rockstars. I'm Erik Voss, and this is a breakdown of Hawkeye Episode 6, the series finale, So This Is Christmas. A title that reminds us that this show is, at its heart, a Christmas treat. The title also citing John Lennon and Yoko Ono's Happy Xmas, War is Over, and that song's children's choir, much like the angelic voices of this episode.
Happy Christmas.
Let's break down this finale shot by shot for everything interesting you might have missed, and heads up, I am gonna include spoilers for both Hawkeye and Spider-Man No Way Home. Also, you can get some great holiday gifts by checking out our new limited edition Hawkeye shirts and our awesome Strange Entanglement shirt, along with a Kingpin-inspired Long Live the King shirt at newrockstarsmerch.com. The episode opens with the King, Wilson Fisk, Kingpin, Vincent D'Onofrio returning in the same delivery as the character in the Netflix Marvel Daredevil. This first shot we see of him is actually his cane, an interesting parallel to our very first shot of Charlie Cox, Matt Murdock in Spider-Man No Way Home, cane first. And as Fisk approaches, the camera shoots him from below and then shoots Eleanor down from above, and then throughout the scene continues to frame Kingpin huge from the surface of his desk and in the foreground, and then when it cuts back to Eleanor, she is small in frame on the other side of the desk, just some forced perspective to heighten the size differential and to make Kingpin all the more intimidating. There's also a reflection of Fisk in the door behind Eleanor, giving us the sense that he is surrounding her. Eleanor begins,
"We've had a good relationship, haven't we, Wilson?"
Yes.
Yes, Kingpin has gotten good at reading people, and D'Onofrio twitches his eye from the very beginning of the scene until it just lashes out in a rage by the scene's end. The twitching eye also foreshadows his off-screen fate when he is shot by Maya Lopez, but as in the Daredevil comics, will probably just walk away blinded. There's a shot of Midtown Manhattan that shows the Hell's Kitchen neighborhood, the domain of Kingpin, kind of the heart of Kingpin's grip on the city, and of course the stomping grounds of Matt Murdock. And you can see some industrial steam blocking out the view of the skyline. But there's actually a new tower added between the Empire State Building and the Bank of America Tower on the right side of frame, and those really tall Central Park towers on the left. I don't think this tower exists in real life. And yes, it is interesting that it is masked by steam here. This is roughly where Avengers Tower used to be located. That tower was always CGI'd over the real-life MetLife building, which is located beside Grand Central Station. However, this episode actually shows us the MetLife building later on in the shot of Comcast Tower, aka 30 Rock. But in that shot, there is that large blue tower right beside it that I also don't think exists in real life. So the MCU might have actually relocated former Avengers Tower slightly in the city's geography. And the steam back in that establishing shot makes me wonder if something was being masked from this building, because we know in Far From Home, Spider-Man sailed right through a new atrium that was constructed in that tower by its new occupant. This series doesn't really confirm the answer to that, but it could be Fisk Tower or the Fantastic Four Baxter Building. Maya Lopez meets with Kazi and Kingpin, who now changed into a red Hawaiian shirt, his exact outfit from the cover of the Spider-Man comic Family Business. Notice how Fisk only knows certain words in ASL.
I always taught you to keep a low profile.
He knows low profile in sign language, probably a recurring reminder that he has repeated since she was young. Maya claims to have dropped her Ronin pursuit, but Kingpin does not buy it. And notice how his eye twitch returns and he tells Kazi,
The people need to be reminded that the city belongs to me.
echoing the kind of words he would use in the Netflix Daredevil show.
I wanted to make this city something better than it is. Something beautiful. You took that away from me!
This is my city. My family.
Then a montage shows Clint and Kate assembling a whole bunch of trick arrows, one of many Christmas movie homages in this episode, recalling that planning montage in Home Alone. You'll notice they have another Pym arrowhead, but whereas the previous one glowed blue, the color for Pym discs that enlarge stuff, this one has a red interior, the color of Pym particles and discs that shrink things. And along with Too Dangerous, the other labels read Airbag, Freeze, Flash Bomb, Icebreaker, all things we see used in the final battle. One uses electromagnetism to attract metal, which is similar tech to how Cap would retract his shield to his arm in Age of Ultron. Then a series of Stark arrowheads that are tipped with red and gold, of course, Iron Man's colors, ones that were probably designed by Tony Stark for Clint. Kate recalls the episode 1 prologue when she saw Clint fighting Chitauri without any superpowers or tech, unlike Iron Man in that battle.
You showed me that being a hero isn't just for people who can fly or shoot lasers out of their hands. It's for anyone.
But I guess being a hero is for people using the weapons built by the guys who shoot lasers out of their hands. We see a caravan of Trust a Bro trucks pulling up to 30 Rock. Yes, once again we hear Dance of the Sugar Plum Fairy from Tchaikovsky's Nutcracker, and that classical music evokes the way Hans Gruber's crew was scored with Ode to Joy as they arrived in Die Hard. Ivan also says Red 1 in position, like he's part of the Red Squadron in Star Wars. Yelena arrives to the party in a green coat, another production design element pulled from Home Alone, in which several shots of that movie have both red and green somewhere in the frame, like the McAllisters' year-round yet still Christmassy wallpaper, which they did to give that movie an all-time Christmassy feel. This episode often does the same thing, not just with Christmas decorations everywhere, literally in the costuming of red and green suited tracksuit bros, and just random background set decorations. Clint spots Kazi's sniper in the champagne, and he quickly uses a serving platter to deflect the bullet, and all hell breaks loose. Kate boards the elevator with Yelena and wrestles with her until the top tears away to her new purple Hawkeye Archer top, which I just really appreciate because it was Yelena's probing interrogation episode 5 that helped Kate realize why exactly she wanted to be an Avenger. And in another Christmas movie homage, Kate pulls a Buddy the Elf on the elevator buttons.
No. Come on, that is so annoying.
Suka is Russian for bitch. Kate chases Yelena in a cool lateral tracking shot through the office space, reminding us of the awesome camera work in the movie Old Boy. And this means that on the Hawkeye set, they likely had to build a whole set with a dollhouse opening to roll in front of. But they do conceal a cut as they move from the kitchen into the lobby. And here, this firm is called Tanner, Dees and Associates. Olivia Tanner was a set decoration coordinator for this show. Courtney Dees was a set decoration PA. It's really cool how the Marvel shows will work in the names of the cast and crew into the visual details. Kate slings her bola at Yelena's widow staff to knock it out the window, and then they end up complimenting each other as creepy baby Santa in the corner watches. Yelena anchors herself with that rappelling line, and the camera reorients with her as she scales down the building. I love how that Christmassy Empire State Building is framed perfectly behind her. And then Kate has to jump out a window the same way she saw Hawkeye do when she was a kid, but miraculously lands unharmed. Jack saves her, proving he really is just a naive dummy who loves swords. Cool. As the tracksuits creep up on Clint, he lays these blinking red grenades to cover the area, which was the same device that Clint used on the Outriders who chased him in Endgame. And then Clint tries to pull a John McClane out the window, but he ends up more like the Wet Bandits in Home Alone, whose zipline also breaks, and then he ends up stuck in the tree where he meets the cutest owl.
Hey.
Cute for now. This owl is a reference to an owl that was found in the 30 Rock Christmas tree last Christmas, a cute owl named Rocky. Kate throws a tricycle through the window of toy store FAO Shores, just like Kevin McAllister does to break the window and trip the alarms of the toy store in Home Alone 2, and she also stands on that big keyboard, just like Tom Hanks does at FAO Shores in Big. Kate timbers the tree by breaking the wires and shooting an acid arrow at the trunk, calling back her unintentional demolition of Stain Tower back in episode 1. And as the tree falls, you can actually see that owl flying out of it. I gotta say, I'm getting a little sentimental here at the end of the year 2021. It's been a big year for us covering every episode of all these Marvel Disney Plus shows, and it's been a delight sharing it with you. But as big as 2021 has been, we've got even bigger plans here at New Rockstars for 2022. We are gonna be expanding our output. We're gonna launch a new channel. We're gonna try to be even bigger and better next year than we were this year. And to help us accomplish those goals, we're gonna need some serious computing power. Well, thanks to our friends at Gigabyte, we have it. We've been using the Aorus 15P YD model from Gigabyte. It has an 11th gen Intel CPU and an NVIDIA GeForce RTX 3080 graphics processing unit that's great for streaming content and for gaming. Look at that rainbow glow on the keyboard, and look at that display. It was designed in partnership with the professional G2 esports team, and its strong processing power and fast refresh rates makes for smooth gameplay on the latest games. With its 8-hour battery life and ridiculous cooling, this is a great laptop for travel or coffee shops, or staring at it for hours trying to read the fine print on TV show newspaper. We've used this around the office a bunch for editing videos, streaming, and of course, watching a bunch of content. Our editors have been blown away by its speed. If you're looking to upgrade your laptop, check out the Aorus 15P and other great options at gigabyte.com. And you can get this featured laptop in the link below. On the ice, Clint uses the magnetic arrow to snatch all of their guns. And Clint reveals he wore his new suit underneath his torn shirt, a classic superhero shortcut, proving he has come full circle on that branding issue. Then they just unleash all the trick arrows in the tracksuits. It is awesome. Kate once again uses her bow as a springboard, uses her legs to tackle a guy the way Black Widow would do. But the most unsettling arrow, of course, is that red glowing Pym arrow that shrinks the Trust a Bro truck.
What happens to them now?
I don't know.
I'll have to ask Scott about that one.
Yes, telling us that Clint might have gotten this tech from Scott directly, not Hank Pym, and that Clint and Scott's partnership after Civil War continued. But then the owl snatches him away, and no joke, the captions of this episode label their squeaky screams as children shouting. This is the most horrific MCU death since Darren Cross shrunk Hank into a plop of twitching goo. So that owl either fed these tiny humans to its children or used its talons to crush them and then pull them apart limb by limb with its beak. Marvel, please, Pym tech deaths are terrifying. And we kind of love them. Clint does that same trick of splitting a wooden arrow in midair by firing a second arrow, which he argued to Kate back in episode 4 was possible.
No, it's not impossible. The first arrow you release just has to be wood. So when you release the second one, it splits it right up the middle.
I call bullshit. I've tried it.
Well, I've done it a few times.
But Cassie catches the middle arrow the way Loki does in Avengers, which just makes me think that this guy has got to be juiced on something. A lot of the tracksuits are. Or it could just be the show suddenly remembered that this character exists and decided to give him something to do. I mean, in this episode, a lot of Cassie's dialogue is awkwardly ADR'd in.
You know what I have to do. Don't make me do this, Maya.
I don't know, it just looks like they had to reconfigure a lot of this in post-production to bring many of these subplots to a close in a 6th episode. Cassie tells Maya, I guess calling back to William's advice to Maya in episode 3, but other than that photo of the three of them together and then the references to Cassie being his number 2, we never really feel any context to William and Kazi's relationship for this callback to make sense to come from Kazi. Clearly, Farafi's role in this series was super trimmed down. It's a bummer. Yelena asks Clint what happened to Natasha.
Your sister sacrificed herself. She saved the world. I'm sorry.
You're lying.
I love the shot composition with Yelena because behind her, that fallen Christmas tree with all of its lights looks like infinite infinity stones that are all out of focus because she doesn't care about the dumb rainbow rock stakes that Natasha gave her life over. In truth, neither does Clint anymore. Kingpin rips off Eleanor's door, literally opening a door to possibility, this time after the Netflix show made him famous for slamming car doors closed. Kate plunges an arrow into his chest, but it has no effect. Kingpin in the comics is bulky because of layers of muscle, and in Daredevil, he wore body armor. But the Kingpin of this show is also super strong. He's getting plowed through windows of buildings, he's ripping off car doors, he's punching people across rooms. I'm wondering if this Kingpin strength may also be a factor of a dosage of some kind of super soldier serum. Kate notices him adjusting his cufflinks, and then he gets rammed into the toy store, and Kate bravely engages this huge man despite his insane strength. He snaps her trick arrows, but then she uses this because she leaps on his arm where she saw him adjusting the cufflink, and you can see the moment she snatches that cufflink from his sleeve. That was her objective. So then she uses Clint's coin flicking trick to activate that one magnetic arrow, which starts a chain reaction to the too dangerous one, but also triggers that sonic blast and that cluster bomb arrow all at once. These all cook Fisk, and then he lies motionless, and in that shot you can see the cufflink missing. Kate has her mom arrested.
Mrs. Bishop, you're under arrest for the murder of Armand Duquesne III. Turn around, please.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure this scene was reshot as well because the background looks like a plate, the detective's lines are off screen, and the detective we do see has just a really weird eye line. Hey, who are you looking at? I think Eleanor might also have been reworked in post-production because we never really see her kill Armand, see her kill anyone. I'm betting that there was an alternate ending with her character, maybe her dying instead of just getting arrested like this. Clint is able to turn Yelena by repeating that whistle that she shared with her sister. And Clint reveals how Natasha told him about the events in the Black Widow prologue, escaping Ohio on a plane, being separated from Yelena, and in doing so, he reverts Yelena to her American Pie singing innocence before she became a killer. Clint apologizes to her, and Yelena decides to leave, probably to pave a future on some Dark Avengers or Thunderbolts lineup with Val and John Walker. And notice how only now it begins to snow. This tells us that the final scene of Spider-Man No Way Home, in which Peter Parker swings through 30 Rock Plaza past the tree, while around the same time might have been a different night because that tree was still upright and it was fully snowing in that scene. So don't worry, we don't have to look in the background for Peter swinging around here. And in the spot in the toy store where Kingpin was once lying down, in the background, nutcrackers flank an empty throne. Considering how much the tracksuits self-identified with nutcracker music, you could interpret these as the tracksuits who now protect an empty throne, at least temporarily empty, with Kingpin's latest setback, which we see in the next scene as Maya finds him and points a gun at him.
Sometimes family doesn't see eye to eye.
Yes, the camera pulled up before we saw a body, so no corpse, no death. What happened, snowman in the window? What did you see? Well, yes, we do hear both a gunshot and a thud to the ground. But notice how Kingpin said eye to eye. That has got to be a nod to the similar moment in the Daredevil comics when Daredevil tells Echo about Kingpin's lies and Echo shoots Kingpin in the face, but we later find out that he's just blinded by this. And he actually later on after that gets some reconstructive surgery. So I'm betting we will see Kingpin in the MCU again, but the next time he will be temporarily blind or maybe with an eye patch, but fully blind would make him a more interesting foe to Maya Lopez in the Echo series, and of course the perfect foe to Daredevil, who also now joins the MCU. Clint lets Kate join him on Christmas Day to the Barton farm. Notice how Clint smiles at the front porch. That might be because sitting in that bucket is the baseball glove that he recovered from his son during the Time Heist trial in Endgame to prove that things could be removed from the past and prove that he could reunite with his family. Kate brings the dog along.
That's Lucky.
As expected, they settled on the name Lucky, as the dog is named in the Fraction comics. And Clint returns that Rolex to Laura, and on the back is a S.H.I.E.L.D. logo, Laura's face reflecting in that S.H.I.E.L.D., and the number 19, which is a reference to S.H.I.E.L.D. Agent 19, the designation for Mockingbird Bobby Morse in the comics, but in this case, the number for Laura Barton, at least before she retired. This explains Laura's espionage professionalism throughout the series, and makes Tony Stark's first words upon meeting Laura in Age of Ultron super ironic.
This is an agent of some kind.
Outside, Clint and Kate barbecue the Ronin suit, and as they return to the house brainstorming names for her, settling on the title of Hawkeye, in the foreground, the archery target comes into frame, the same target from Clint's opening scene in Avengers Endgame. That was the moment that truly began this final chapter of Clint's journey, final we think, and now Kate Bishop helped bring him home. And then we get a post-credit scene showing the full Save the City song from Rogers the Musical. The conductor is actually a cameo by the composer of that song, Mark Shaman, who wrote the music and the lyrics alongside Scott Whitman, both of them longtime Broadway greats behind Hairspray and a number of other titles. Little new details I got here. When the cat performer hits his big note, his shield, Mike Wazowski's the Hawkeye performer, who awkwardly has to move out from behind it. But there's also a crazy cut in this moment where Hawkeye goes from being on Cap's left to being right beside Hulk. And then in the final part of the song, Thor and Loki hold hands. Aww. Another reminder to check out our Strange Entitlement shirt at newrockstarsmerch.com. And thank you so much for joining me in these breakdowns of Hawkeye and of all the Marvel breakdowns we have done in 2021. We're gonna take a little break from Marvel content next week, but we got some great Boba Fett content headed your way, and then we will back in full force covering everything we normally cover in the first week of January. In the meantime, you can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at EA Voss, follow New Rockstars, subscribe to New Rockstars for more analysis of everything Marvel. Thanks for watching, bye.